Hello everyone! Today it's time to break down which engines I consider to be the most reliable and long-lasting. So, welcome to Drive District's bold ranking. For this list, I've picked 10 gasoline engines that have earned a reputation for being both dependable and easy to live with. One thing to point out right away. Every engine on this list was used in cars from the 2000s. Like any power plant from that era, each one has its own quirks and weak points. Even so, I know from both experience and research that every engine you'll see today is capable of covering hundreds of thousands of kilometers without major headaches or expensive repairs. All they really ask for is one simple thing: regular oil changes every 10,000 kilometers. And of course, a little attention to the small technical details. So, which engines made it into my bold top 10? Let's get started. Our countdown begins with Japan's legendary Honda K-Series engines, the 2.0-liter, the 2.4-liter, and their turbocharged relative, the 2.3 turbo. These engines first appeared in Honda vehicles in 2001. They're strong, durable power plants with an impressive service life, although they aren't quite as forgiving as the Honda engines that came before them. The K-Series uses a timing chain, which may eventually need replacement at around the 200,000 kilometer mark. That's one of the reasons this engine lands in 10th place. Another is its tendency to wear the exhaust camshaft lobes over time. In some cases, owners have had to replace the exhaust camshaft, an expensive repair. That said, I wouldn't call this an engineering flaw. Many experienced mechanics agree that the real key is using the right engine oil. Choose the viscosity based on how the car is actually driven, and the engine will reward you with excellent reliability. If the car spends most of its time in hot climates or under normal everyday driving conditions, a thicker 0W40 oil is the better choice. On the other hand, if the engine isn't exposed to high thermal loads and the vehicle is mainly driven during the winter, a lighter 0W20 oil is the recommended option. K-Series engines that spend most of their lives on the highway, where they aren't subjected to constant heat cycling and stop-and-go traffic, almost never suffer from exhaust camshaft lobe wear. The bottom line is simple: this engine just doesn't tolerate the wrong oil. That's why it lands in 10th place. An excellent engine overall, but one that's a bit picky when it comes to maintenance. Let's move on. Coming in at number 9 is a German legend, or to be more precise, an entire family of engines. The legendary EA113. Audi and Volkswagen introduced these engines back in the 1990s, building them around a rugged cast-iron engine block. These inline-4 engines helped bring turbocharging to the mainstream and featured their distinctive 5-valve per-cylinder cylinder heads. In the early 2000s, they also introduced direct fuel injection to enthusiasts of Audi, Volkswagen, Skoda, and Seat. In fact, this is where the TFSI story began. Looking back today, it's fair to say these engines have aged remarkably well, although they certainly aren't the simplest engines ever built. With access to a qualified specialist and a workshop that knows these engines inside and out, they're straightforward to maintain and surprisingly affordable to keep on the road. Sure, there are a handful of components that typically need replacement once the mileage reaches around 250,000 kilometers. But even then, these engines are fully capable of covering 500,000 kilometers without developing serious oil consumption caused by piston or cylinder wear. You wanted a Volkswagen engine on the list? Here it is. EA113 takes a well-deserved 9th place. Let's keep going. In 8th place, we have another Japanese favorite, Mazda's L-Series engine family. This includes the 1.8-liter and 2.0-liter versions, along with their larger 2.3-liter sibling. The smaller L-Series engines became incredibly popular. They powered virtually every Mazda model throughout the 2000s. They also found their way into numerous Ford vehicles built on the Focus and Mondeo platforms. And during Ford's ownership of Volvo, these engines also appeared in models like the Volvo S40, S80, V50, and V70. So why does this Japanese workhorse rank only 8th? After all, it's an engine that's capable of covering 400,000 kilometers, or even more. The reason it only ranks 8th is that some owners eventually have to spend money replacing the piston rings. It also features a fairly complex intake manifold, and over time, the intake runner flaps may need to be rebuilt or refurbished. The timing chain, however, is impressively durable, typically lasting around 300,000 kilometers. Overall, this is a straightforward, easy-to-live-with engine. If you want it to last as long as possible, avoid excessive short trips. Don't let it spend countless hours idling, and change the oil more frequently than the minimum recommended interval. That's why it takes 8th place. Moving on to number 7, we have another Japanese engine that's been fitted to both Nissan and Renault models. It's the HR16DE, also known in Renault's catalog as the H4M. This is a genuinely solid engine that's simple, reliable, and inexpensive to maintain. The only reason it doesn't rank any higher is its tendency to develop stuck oil control rings. Over time, the piston rings can lose their freedom of movement, especially in cars that spend most of their lives in city traffic, endless idling in traffic jams, and very little high RPM driving. Fortunately, this issue can usually be prevented simply by shortening the oil change intervals. The timing chain on the H4M typically lasts around 250,000 kilometers. So, despite being a relatively modern design, it finishes in 7th place. Next up, another German engine joins the list. Please welcome the BMW M54. This engine powered BMW models from 2000 through 2010, although its roots go back to the 1990s. The M54 evolved from the earlier M50 and M52 engine families and was offered in 2.2-liter, 2.5-liter, and 3.0-liter versions. Unlike the later N-series engines, the M54 isn't known for problems with its engine block or timing chain. Most repairs are minor. You might have to fix an occasional oil leak, service the intake manifold's DISA valve, or track down the cause of an unstable idle. Those are the kinds of issues owners typically encounter. At very high mileage, especially if the owner neglected the cooling system, has been neglected and the radiators have become clogged, the engine may eventually start burning oil. Fortunately, that's usually an easy fix. Replacing the valve stem seals is often all it takes. All in all, this lively straight 6 is perfectly capable of covering 500,000 kilometers without any major drama. That earns it a solid 6th place. Moving into the top 5, we have one of Renault's toughest and simplest engines, the F4R. Back in the 2000s, it was the workhorse behind models like the Scenic, Megane, and Laguna. Today, updated versions of the F4R continue to power budget-friendly SUVs such as the Duster and Captur. This engine was originally developed in the late 1990s around a durable cast-iron cylinder block. It also served as the foundation for Renault Sport's high-performance engines found in the hottest Megane and Clio models. The most powerful naturally aspirated F4R produces around 200 horsepower, while the turbocharged Renault Sport version delivers as much as 273 horsepower. In short, this is a simple, rugged engine that's built to last for 500,000 kilometers. Yes, it may ask for attention from time to time, but only in relatively minor ways. You may eventually need to replace the harmonic balancer pulley, fix an oil leak, or service the variable valve timing actuator on versions equipped with one. There is one important exception though. Modern F4R engines with an 11:1 compression ratio used in the Duster and Captur do not tolerate regular 92-octane gasoline. Running these engines on low-octane fuel can cause detonation, and persistent knocking may lead to piston damage in as little as 80,000 kilometers. That's the one flaw that keeps the Renault F4R from climbing any higher than 5th place. Let's move on. Just missing the podium, in 4th place, are Volvo's modular gasoline engines. More specifically, the widely used 4-cylinder and 5-cylinder versions. What's impressive is that virtually every variant of these Volvo engines has proven to be a solid performer. Both the naturally aspirated and turbocharged versions have earned an excellent reputation for reliability. The 4-cylinder engines were available in displacements ranging from 1.6 to 2.0 liters. Volvo's 5-cylinder gasoline engines were offered in displacements ranging from 2.0 to 2.5 liters. These are genuinely solid power plants with an excellent track record. Serious mechanical failures are extremely rare, and excessive oil consumption simply isn't one of their common problems. There is one exception worth mentioning: the high-output 2.5-liter version producing around 260 horsepower. That particular engine is more prone to overheating. If it's allowed to overheat, the cylinder head can warp, and the head gasket may fail as a result. Aside from that, the most common repairs involve the variable valve timing system and its control solenoids. Another component that deserves attention is the crankcase ventilation system. If the owner relies heavily on short trips, the PCV system can eventually become clogged. Fortunately, it's an easy problem to diagnose and usually takes only a few hours to fix. In most cases, replacing the clogged PCV hoses and the oil separator restores the system completely. These engines use a timing belt, which should be replaced every 120,000 kilometers. Overall, this is an outstanding engine family that just narrowly misses the podium, earning a well-deserved 4th place. Now it's time for 3rd place. Here we have General Motors' 1.8-liter engine. This engine found its way into Opel and Chevrolet models, as well as selected Fiat and Alfa Romeo vehicles. Originally developed in the early 2000s, it remained in production all the way through the Opel Insignia era. The Opel Z1 8X became the backbone of models such as the Astra and Zafira, as well as their Chevrolet counterparts, the Cruze and Orlando. So, how reliable is it? During its first years in production, the engine did suffer from faulty variable valve timing actuators. The original units turned out to be defective, but they were later replaced under a factory recall campaign. After that, the VVT system stopped being a concern. If there's one component that deserves criticism on the Z1 8X, it's the oil cooler. The reason is simple. The oil cooler typically lasts for around 100,000 kilometers. After that, its seals begin to deteriorate. When that happens, the engine may either develop external oil leaks or, even worse, oil can mix with the engine coolant. If oil contaminates the cooling system, you'll also have to replace the cooling hoses, since prolonged exposure to oil causes the rubber to swell and deteriorate. That's why the oil cooler is best replaced as preventive maintenance before it becomes a problem. Other than that, the Opel C1 8X has very few real weaknesses. That's exactly why it earns a confident 3rd place in this ranking. So, what takes 2nd place? The runner-up is a Ford engine that isn't particularly well known, but it's exceptionally durable. This V6 found its way into models from Ford, Mazda, Lincoln, and Jaguar. It was offered in 2.1-liter, 2.5-liter, and 3.0-liter versions, and its roots trace all the way back to the 1990s. According to some sources, Porsche contributed to the engine's development, while the cylinder heads were engineered by Cosworth. The end result was a lively V6 producing up to 220 horsepower. This is exactly the kind of engine where the body rusts away, the transmission gives up, and the engine just keeps running. With regular oil changes, covering 500,000 kilometers is no challenge at all. This engine uses 2 timing chains, and demand for replacement chains is virtually non-existent. In fact, aftermarket manufacturers don't even bother producing them. OEM parts are practically the only option. That alone tells you just how long these timing chains are designed to last. The only downside is that if a timing chain ever does fail, replacing it is a very expensive job. Still, that's an incredibly dependable engine and a worthy choice for 2nd place. And now, it's time for number 1. At the top of my list is a modern Toyota engine family from the 2000s. I'm talking about the MC series. More specifically, the newer 3.3-liter 3MC engine found in the Lexus RX. It's an excellent engine with a well-earned reputation for reliability. That said, it does have one minor, but easily fixable, weak point: the crankcase ventilation system. If left unattended, a clogged PCV system can eventually lead to increased oil consumption. Toyota's engineers also did an outstanding job with the later AR engine family. One of the best-known examples is the 2.5-liter 2 AR-FE. This engine has virtually no significant weaknesses. Ironically, its predecessor, the 2.4-liter version, was known for a handful of rare but serious issues, making the 2 AR-FE a major step forward in terms of reliability. And that's my ranking. Be sure to let me know in the comments what you think. Do you agree with my top 10 or would you change the order? Also, tell me what other rankings you'd like to see next. And if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to subscribe to the channel.